In this example, we're going to graph a polynomial on a graphing calculator and then use the graph from the calculator to describe the graph and identify the number of real zeros. The polynomial we're going to be looking at is this one here. F of x is equal to 2x cubed minus 3x. So to get started on our calculator, once you turn the calculator on and you're on the main calculation screen there, to graph, you want to go to the upper left-hand corner, which is where the y equals button is, and press that. That will give you these options. You can type in a bunch of different equations here. We have the first line, y1, the second line, y2, y3, and so on. You can type in any of those. If there's anything there, you can hit the clear button in order to go through and clear those out so you can get the new equation typed in. So I'm going to type our equation, which is 4x cubed minus 3x, and I'm going to type that in here. To do that, we are going to need to know where we can find an x. There's a couple of different places. The most common one is here, this button next to the alpha button. There is on this button an x, a capital T, a circle with a line through it, which is the Greek letter theta, and a lowercase n. Depending on what mode you have your calculator on, when you press that button, you'll get one of those options. Typically, we just tend to use x for this course. We're also going to need to know exponents, and there's a few ways of determining and getting the exponents there. We have a 2x to the third here, so we're going to want a cubed. Easiest place to grab that is just to use the caret button and then raise that to the third power. So that's what that will look like. So to get started, we have 2x cubed, so I'm going to hit the 2 button, and then our x button, then I'm going to raise that to the third power using the caret symbol, and then we have a subtract 3x after that. There is a subtraction button here over on the far right side next to the addition and multiplication and division, but there is also a negative symbol way down here at the bottom next to the decimal point. So be careful when you're going through and doing these problems that when you're doing subtraction, you use subtraction, and when you're using a negative, you use the negative button. So I want to subtract on this equation 3x, so a minus 3x. So now I have my equation typed into y1. And then from there, I can go through and hit the graph button to take a look at the graph. If you have made any adjustments to your window so that your graph maybe isn't centered where it normally would be, the default setting on the calculator is to go from -10 on the x-axis on the far left side of the screen to +10, and then the same for the y-axis, -10 to +10, top to bottom. The easiest way to get that, if it has been changed, is to go into Zoom here, which is the center button in the top, and then scroll down to number 6, or just press number 6 on your keypad, and that will change the window back to Z standard, which is from -10 to 10, and from -10 to 10 from left to right and top to bottom for your X and your Y axes. So I scrolled down to number 6, so I'm just going to hit enter. And now we have our graph. From there, we are going to be able to take a look at what our graph looks like and come up with a description as well as determining what it is that we have for our real zeros. So if you take a look at the graph that we have for our equation, how we can describe this graph is that this graph starts down at the bottom of the screen. And as we read this from left to right, that's typically how people read graphs, just like we would read a sentence from left to right. It starts at the bottom of the graph and it goes up for a while, and then it comes down for a while, then it goes up for a while again before it goes off the top of the screen. So our description could be, the graph starts at the bottom, from left to right, it starts at the bottom, it increases, then it decreases, and then it increases again. So we'll write that down here in just a minute. From left to right, starts at the bottom, increases, decreases, and then increases again. And then we're supposed to determine the number of real zeros. Zeros are the same thing as x-intercepts, so if you take a look, it looks like there are 3 x-intercepts here. So we would say that we would have 3, it looks like we have 3 real zeros. So to finish this up, to come up with our description, we'd want to say something like from left to right. From left to right, the graph starts at the bottom. It increases because it's going upward as we read it from left to right. Then decreases, and then increases again. So your description can be something along that line. I would always go from left to right on your graph, describe where it's starting. In this case, it started at the bottom. And then as you travel along the line from left to right, talk about what it's doing. And then the other part, we are supposed to identify what appears to be the number of real zeros. So it looks like in this problem, there are 3 real zeros, 3 x-intercepts.